So hello, everybody. This is March 19th. This is Michael Watson, and this is the IACT IMDHA Presenter Series. Welcome, 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 welcome. We are getting ready for the Hypno Expo, the big event of the year, which is on May 19th through the 21st on beautiful Daytona Beach with pre- and post-conference programs as well. And it's going to be a great, great time. And the presenters that are on this series are the folks that will be presenting those pre- and post-conference programs, some of them onto the Friday as Dan's is, that we're going to talk to tonight of that weekend as well. This is week 10 in our series, and we still have another 5 to go. So when you're ready to make your reservations for the conference, you may want to take a minute to pick up your catalog. You should have gotten it in the mail this week if you're a member of IACT IMDHA. Or you can also read all the details online about the presenters that you haven't heard yet in this series just by going to hypnoexpo2017.com. And under conference, you can find out all of the details and the ins and outs, and you can register at the website there. The 5 that are remaining, just to let you know where we are in the schedule, we're going to be talking to Will Horton, in fact, next week, on advanced mind control secrets. The week after that, Sean and Sarah Carson and Jess Marion about the heart of Ericksonian hypnosis. The following week, Sean Michael Andrews, the world's fastest hypnotist, on killer demos to get more clients. And then Jason Lynette will follow that up with a discussion on empower your hypnosis business with live talks. And then finally, last but not least, Mark Andreas and my own self, Michael Watson, will be presenting NLP for hypnotists and hypnotherapists. So we're going to be talking to Dan Cleary here in just a moment, but first let me just make sure you're all comfortable with the software and let you know that if you, down at the bottom of your screen, you may find a menu, and one of the choices there is participants. If you click on that, you'll see a list of the names of all the people that are online right now, but it'll also be the place where later on you can raise your hand at question and answer time by clicking the link down at the bottom of that panel. So you might want to look at that. And there's also a chat room that you can open up if you wish. And if you use the chat room, you can just send a message to me or something during the call if you have some problem hearing something or any particular thing that you need to bring to my attention. That would be a great place to do that. I want to let you know that we are recording this discussion this evening, and the recording will be available on the IACT IMDHA forum, the Mind Matters forum, that is, tomorrow about noontime. It also gets posted on the website in a couple of places, really easy to find, either the IACT or the IMDHA website or the hypnoexpo2017.com page. Up at the top, you'll see a tab that says Media. Underneath the media is the Hypnocaster, rather. And the Hypnocaster has all of the recordings that we've done up to this point. Also next to that, under teleconference as well, or under conference information, one of the choices is teleconference. And again, there's a list of all of the programs in this series, and the ones that we've already had are highlighted in blue so that you know they're clickable links, and you can click on them. And so for those of you who just can't get enough of us, you can see us again, or you can pass the links on to your friends so that they can become aware, and you can keep track of any that you've missed as well. So with all of that said, I am about to introduce our speaker for this evening. So tonight, I'm going to be talking to Dan Cleary, somebody that I have known for about, I'm thinking 16 or 17, maybe even up to
20 years.
Sounds like about 20. Yeah.
Well, didn't we meet out at ABH 96, something like that?
May very possibly. Yeah. It sounds about right. And then
Patty was out there, and I knew Patty from someplace, and
yep.
and you in a bar.
That would be the place. That would be the place. And Robert Otto, of course, was out there, going 180 miles an hour. I think that was the first time I ever saw him, and I'd never witnessed anything like that before. So that was exciting, and to tie into this group. So let me tell you all, Dan is an internationally recognized hypnosis instructor and a pain relief educator. In fact, he's been working at Pain Week. Has done Pain Week for a number of years, and might have something as we go along to say about that. He presents programs on hypnosis and the language of transformation throughout the United States, Europe, and Australia to doctors, psychologists, therapists, and other hypnotists. And his specialties include pain relief, personal transformation, and effective therapeutic language. Dan is the author of several successful client and practitioner guides, and here he is with us tonight to talk to us about his presentation at the conference, which is Friday, May 19th. It's a one-day, full-day program called Say What? Communication is More Than the Words We Use. So we're looking forward to that. Welcome, Dan. It's good to have you on the call.
It's good to be with you. It's been a while since we've touched base.
Yes, yeah.
And like we were just saying, you know, I think I was thinking about it in the last couple of days, getting ready for the call, and thinking back on how long we've known each other, and I'm pretty sure it's right at 20 years. I mean, it's been a while, Bubba.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem a day over that either.
Well, it depends whether or not they're dog years.
Yeah, that's right. Well, anyway, it's great to have you here, and you know, I love the fact that you really are a kindred spirit to me with regard to the way that you enjoy language and the way that language works in therapy. Something that not only is it's great fun, and also, of course, it's you know, it's the real deal, and enables us to sort of see things that we might otherwise miss if we weren't paying attention. So my understanding is, at least, that this is kind of the crux of your day-long program. Maybe just to kind of kick us off, can you kind of give us just sort of an explanation of what the program is about?
I could if I really precisely knew.
Okay.
As with any classes, or we've known each other. You've seen me. You've been at my class. I've been at your classes. I start with a framework.
Right.
And then the same as with a client, the framework gets altered according to the class. The intent is that I believe that language is one of the most easily accessible aspects of our communication skills for us to be able to enhance our communication. The techniques that we were originally taught in our whatever level of hypnosis training we have, and whether we've done one class or 20 classes or 200 classes, very often we take the techniques, go, oh, okay, that, and put it in a little box, and we know where that technique is, and we pull it out and use it as it seems appropriate. I want to go back and look at those techniques and look at the way they're structured and how they do what they do. I found in my early practice that I was surprised when clients would come in and they'd begin telling me their story or their issue or the thing that they came to see me about. And very often I would hear them describe one of the techniques that I had been trained in. Mm-hmm. Almost exactly, but enough difference that it became their technique. And that was a guide for me. You know, oh, wow. I mean, you're describing doing this exactly the way parts would work, say, as an example. You know, well, part of me wants to do the change, but part of me doesn't want to do it. And it's like, okay, I know where we're going.
Sure.
And I find that too often, I think, people take a technique and they go, okay, and they run the technique exactly as they were taught.
Yeah.
Because that's the way the technique works, and that's great. When you're in training and you're learning something brand new, a framework is great. When the individual that you're with is starting on the third step of the technique, you don't go back to the first.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. You know? And so I want to re-examine how the technique works and what it's actually, you know, okay, this is a pattern interrupt. This is all parts or whatever. And how that takes place very often in normal conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we make this big thing about, you know, trance and depth and all. I can't find, I don't have, I've got a really good measuring tape, and I've got a laser level. I can't measure trance. And so I find that the more I do this, the more I find that it's the techniques are patterns to learn and absorb and then twist around and adapt in our own way. Mm-hmm. And I want to go back over that with people, because the insights that I have gathered over the years, it's still happening.
Sure.
You know, you mentioned how you and I are both kind of language junkies, and I've thought about language and I've taught about language, and the difference between saying I want to talk to you or speak with you, little things like this. And some of it's effective. Some of it, I think, goes right past the client. The client doesn't know that how elegant you've been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Well, you know, if I might just step in for a second, one of the things that I think is interesting about your approach, and that I really appreciate it, is as we got these techniques, and there's certain steps, and these are the words that you're supposed to say. I've had people recite from memory things to me before, you know, or read to me, but there's no sense of really being communicated with when that happens. And your approach, as I'm understanding it, is you understand in some method that you're working with what it is that needs to occur. And so you start talking about making that happen, as opposed to the memorized words and the memorized steps. Is that?
Yeah, and I think it also, my view of my client is that they're heroes. Mm-hmm. And you've seen, HEA, I've done a couple of things about the heroes. And when I consider them as heroes, I'm not there to fix them. What they're doing works, even if they're getting an outcome they don't want. Most of the framework of what they're doing is functional. Part of the script and the programming of the framework is giving them is where they're going off track in most cases. So I want to look to my client to see how they're creating the situation that they're living, and what changes they want to make. Now, you mentioned, and you know that I work a lot with pain relief. Mm-hmm. And in the case in pain relief, most people that come to us are coming about chronic issues. If it's an acute thing, they take 2 pills, call the doctor in the morning, things are okay. When they come to see practitioners for working with chronic pain, they've been through a lot of things, and a lot of the work that they've done is on this militaristic language of painkillers and overcome it, and you'll survive, and all these things that to me just take all the power away. Mm-hmm. And I was speaking earlier about how we both play with language and appreciate language is probably a better word. And what I've come to consider lately is that when we are aware of our language as practitioners, as people, our client may or may not pick up the little nuances that we use. And you know, from all these years, you say something and you see a client, and you 6 months later you run into them in a grocery store or someplace like that, and they come up and they say, you say, how you doing? They say, oh, I'm doing great. You know, something you said to me really just changed everything in my life. Yeah. And you go, oh, and you think back to the session and you go, oh, that was that clever statement. No, I never figured that out. You gave me directions to a restaurant. I met my spouse there, and we're getting married next week.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's seldom what we think is important. And so I've come to the conclusion of late that what it does is it changes us first.
Mm-hmm.
It makes us more mindful and more aware of the language that they're using. And it changes it changes how we appreciate them, and it changes us as practitioners, I think. And I, in my trainings, especially when I have the time in the targeting pain programs that I do a teleconference course, and I really have come to like the teleconference in the context that we do smaller bits each week, and then they go off and work on that bit during the week with clients and friends and stuff. And I do what's called wax on, like I call wax on, wax off, which is going into ordinary situations and using your language skills and your observation skills in snippets with, you know, the guy at the post office, the checker at the grocery store, and how you can begin to make it so that we don't get into a situation in the office where we go, oh, okay, time to turn on my hypno talk. Mm-hmm. That it becomes part of who we are. And that's where I think that the change and what this program is about is changing the way, allowing for ourselves to go, okay, I'm not a hypnotist. I don't, in the context, or a change transformation person, in the context of 9 to 5 or whatever your office hours are. This is something I've chosen to become. Mm-hmm. I think that language and perception and perspective change everything in my life. And so by making it a part of my daily life, I become more fluid, more comfortable, more observant, and more effective as a practitioner.
Mm-hmm. You know, something that's interesting about that too is the idea that you know, we have the pre-talk at the beginning, and a lot of people you know, might spend, gosh, depending on how you do it, some people spend a vast amount of time in the pre-talk, like 20 minutes or something, and then when they're done with that, then there's literally a shift that takes place where they go, okay, now we've done all that. Now we're going to roll up our sleeves and we're going to do the work. You know, and
well, I'm exactly the opposite.
And exactly right. Well, it's exactly what I was opening up for you to talk about, because I know you don't think about it that way, and in a
way I do, in a way I don't. My favorite line for a client when they're telling, especially, and you know, I mean, part of what I'm doing is a pattern interrupt. If you want to go to, okay, what technique is going on here? When they are telling me their critical statement, and I can see, feel that energy. I say, okay, we'll get to that in a minute, but first I want to play with your imagination. And we begin in a quote normal conversation to go ahead and do. To me, the pre-talk. You talk about some people take 20 minutes for the pre-talk. My whole session is pre-talk, mm-hmm. or
right.
You know, it's seamless. And when a change begins to take place, then I teach self-hypnosis as a resource to get to that place. You've seen me work with people, and I seldom use a formal induction, but I'm still doing an induction. It's just I don't wear a suit, you know?
Sure, exactly. the top hat.
And I mean, and you mentioned, you know, the conferences and all, and I think that you and I can agree that we meet people in the hallways and in the restaurants and everything, and probably learn a lot there that we don't get in the classrooms, or that is just in passing.
Yeah.
That is, oh, that clicks.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, I think, part of making. We've chosen a profession. We've chosen a direction for a reason, and making it not what we do, but who we are, I think changes the way that we can be effective with our clients.
Absolutely.
Um,
And by the way, just if I might ask, are you doing anything else at the conference? You've got like a 1 hour or a short program or something?
yeah, I do. I completely don't know what it is.
Well.
Why are you asking me questions that aren't on the list?
HypnoExpo2017.com, Dan. You can find out all about it right there. That'll come in handy. I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure that you got a chance to, to mention it.
Yeah, I think it's Saturday. I honestly, I didn't even think about it at this point. It's one of the things I really like. For those who have not been to Daytona, Daytona is probably the best beach in Florida. Arguably one of the best in the country. And for me and for you, it's even easier. It's an hour for you to drive over.
Actually, 45 minutes.
I'm trying to make it sound like you're doing hardship, I'm about 2.5 hours, so I actually have to drink coffee before I can leave.
Well, I have to walk uphill both ways.
Oh, okay. and the snowstorm of all that sand across your feet. Yes, I understand. But to me, it's just the venue is so cool, and the weather is. May is one of the best months here. So being there and being able to go out and hang out on the deck out there and overlook the beach, walk the beach. That's where, you meet people. Oh, go for a walk. Let's go down on the beach, hang out. And I think that we learn a lot there as well.
Yes. Yeah. As much there, I think, oftentimes as in the room, other than maybe the extended programs, the long ones like this. So by all means, it's an important part of the conference.
Well, when we're in the classes, we're there to learn a particular thing.
Mm-hmm.
And in the social interactions, the learning is spontaneous. It's like, what happened? Huh? Oh, you did. I had a client that was doing this, and I did this, and that. Oh, okay. So the context is so different.
Great. So just to kind of simplify for people that are listening in and wondering what the heck we're talking about, the program that you're doing, Communication is More Than Just Words, on Friday the 19th. Say what? It really represents this approach that we're talking about that isn't by rote, that isn't by technique, but that really is something that evolves conversationally and that utilizes some understanding about what language does in terms of how it influences the client's state, of course. You mentioned the idea of some kind of a daily practice. I guess you're doing self-hypnosis or meditation or something.
Yeah. Have you ever, when you're doing a class, just said, who in here practices self-hypnosis on a daily basis?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
I'm always amazed that not every hand goes up. Let's say it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Like, I'm sorry, I got into hypnosis for pain relief for myself. I live with a chronic nerve damage that cannot be repaired. And it's not, there are emotional aspects to it, but mostly it's a mechanical thing that I've got nerves that have been cut, and they're working fine on either end, but they're not connected. And so I'm getting messages that I'm still in the wreck.
Yeah.
This does not go away. By nature of that, I have to do some level of work with myself all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that has become my habit aspect. And yet I still 2 or 3 times a day give myself anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes, and sometimes longer, depending on what's going on. I think that our familiarity with trance and our familiarity with turning within for answers, whether you call it hypnosis or meditation or whatever box you put it in, that our familiarity with that makes us better at working with people and helping them to utilize it. A lot of people, going back to techniques, most of the people that I have worked with, most of the hypnotists that I have worked with, were taught about something equivalent to safe place or their happy place or Hypno 101. And that's fine. I have a happy place. I have a safe place. I don't call it a safe place because, to me, if I have a safe place, that means other places aren't.
Right. And it means if there's some danger that if you need to have a safe place at hand, it means that there's likely to be some requirement for it.
Well, but it sounds great until you become crazy on language the way you and I are. Okay, well, safe, not safe. Okay, what? I call one of my things a place of resource, and it works for helping me to deal with whatever I'm dealing with. With the nerve damage that I have, there is a constant level of stuff. But when I am tired, when I am physically pushing myself, things like that, I get extra. I get extra duty, if you will.
Yeah.
And also the flexibility of being able to go in and out quickly. So one of the things that I like when I'm working with clients is when we've done we've done a conversational approach to their situation, and they begin to get a sense of relief that they can measure, that they can notice, that they can access. I begin to teach them self-hypnosis. And I teach them to go in and out of their state, whatever they call it, in the context of a comfortable chair, the nice lighting, all that stuff. But then I also help them to learn a sense of that place that they can get with their eyes open driving the car.
Nice. Yeah.
Okay. Because in the context of pain relief, it's got to be portable. You've got to be able to, a lot of people come in with back issues. And if you work in an office, you're going to have back issues. You sit a lot, you're going to have that. You've got to be able to make changes in that way. For other issues that people may come about, it's always nice to have a sense of place that they can, okay, while I'm doing the task at hand, I can remember that things that I can be in touch with myself as well.
Right.
I think that most of the work that I do is about the relationship. It's not the technique. The techniques are great. I mean, it's great to have, and I'm not knocking techniques in the context of don't learn techniques. Learn them all. Learn. I still read scripts. I don't use scripts, but I still read them.
Right.
I still read about other people and what they did and how they work with other issues. But I think it's the relationship that we develop with our clients. And I think that I mentioned that I consider my clients heroes. And then when I do that, I'm no longer trying to fix them. I am here to serve them. it changes who I am in the relationship.
Sure.
And I think that you do a lot of that yourself. You know, you work with, you are one of my favorite for teaching NLP, but it's not because you know all the techniques of NLP, or I'm sorry, the stream of things that is not techniques that techniques fall off of, or however that. You truly connect and care about your clients. Mm-hmm. And they know that.
Well, you know, Dan, this is one of Erickson's definitions of hypnosis, of course, is that hypnosis is a relationship. It's a real simple sentence, and I think a really important one for us to take to heart. We are creating states. We are, or assisting in, at least we're on the ride, if you will, with this other person. What you were talking about earlier about self-hypnosis and people practicing self-hypnosis and learning how to go in and out of the state. You know, there's so many things that contribute to that. And one of the things that I know you've talked about is the importance of reading. You know, stories, novels invite you to enter into and step back out of various realities and experiences. Poetry. I love reading poetry just for the fact that it's the utilization of language in a way that is transporting. It teaches me something about language, but it also teaches me something about experience.
Yeah. When we live our life, I mean, most of us don't have the freedom to jet set out to go see somebody in Colorado next week who's playing in a bar that, but when we read, we get the experience of listening or reading another storyteller. Mm-hmm. And when a storyteller, even if it's poorly written, we can pick up on why it doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And not include that in our discussions with our clients. You know, oh wow, when I heard Johnny Carson used to say that words that end with a K stop the discussion.
I was just thinking of one, but
yep, that's one.
Yeah,
it stops the discussion.
Interesting.
And when we read and we are captured by the story and begin to care about the characters in whatever we're reading. I mean, I like fiction. I like mysteries. My mother turned me on to reading. We begin to learn the craft of a storyteller.
Sure.
A lot of people, they want to have a technique and a script because they don't have the confidence to, or they don't think they have the confidence to wing it. And I say, well, tell me first before we get to that. I'll show you a trick how that can change in your life. But first, when you were, living at home, tell me about a situation there. And they start telling me about, and when I'm doing classes like this, if I have contact with the students before the class, I have them write 1 or 2 paragraph story about something funny that happened. And then I pass the stories around. The original person tells the story, and the other people read the stories. And I said, that's scripting. You know how to tell stories. You know how to engage people when you're not doing it with an outcome in mind.
Nice.
Okay. What we're doing when we're working with our client is listening to their story and helping them find the point in that story that they didn't recognize that it turned in a direction that they didn't get the outcome they looked for. So when we read stories and poetry, as you mentioned, poetry is a kind of singing, I think, in some ways. Mm-hmm. How do you take an emotional state and put it into cadence?
Yeah.
Into a to ten, Yeah. And music. Oak and I are getting married. We've decided on 2 songs that we are definitely going to have. One is the Platters, "Only You."
Okay.
And the other is I forget his name now. "Stand by Me."
Benny King.
Benny King, right? And I mean, because both of those sum up what we do with each other and how we feel about each other.
Nice. Yeah.
And okay, they're really old songs by, I mean, they're not even on the oldies station.
In fact, as you say that, it occurs to me that poetry isn't about words. It's about conservation of words. It's about being able to take all of that and put it encapsulated inside of a few verses.
In some types of poetry, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And through the cadence, and I'm going to be spending a lot of time in Germany, as it turns out, and so I'm having to learn German. And it's like our scripts wouldn't, if I had scripts, they would not work in German because the phrasing and the structure of the sentences is different.
Yeah.
Now, I've taught a couple of classes over there, and one of the things that they found remarkable, Oka jokes with me and say, "Oh, everybody in Germany speaks English." Well, everybody in Germany speaks English as a second language that they learned in school. Some
second language
better than others,
Yeah.
By listening to the person rather than the words. I have sat in classes. I was doing a version of what I was talking about with telling a story, and as a example that they knew how to do scripts. And this woman was trying to do it in English, and she was having trouble. I said, "Just tell me in German." And so she, yeah, and she knew exactly how to say what she was talking about. I had no clue. This was 10 years ago. Right. No clue what she was talking about or about the words that she was using. And when she finished, I turned to the rest of the class and I said, "Okay, this is what she's talking about." And it was a situation where there was, this person did this person did, and all the major points were there. I didn't know any of the detail. I didn't know, and the work that we do very often, we don't need the detail of their issue, just understanding how they create it or how they respond in their issue to their participation in their issue, if you will, if it's something other than like nerve damage.
Yeah.
And even in that, the think of this and this. It took me years to figure out that I would never win a war with my pain.
Right.
Because I'm both sides of it.
Nice. Important.
And when we are no longer, when we fight it, we fight the pain and we overcome it and we push it down and we do all these things. No, we're still at war.
Yeah.
When we make peace with it, okay, I've got broken nerves. Both sides of the break work fine.
Mm-hmm.
But because they can't talk, they're both telling me that there's a problem when there's no problem.
Right.
And the problem is that they lost communication.
Absolutely.
Excuse me.
Dan, I'm looking at the clock, and we've actually only got like another 6 minutes or something. That's how fast it goes. So I want to give people a chance if they've got a question or something to ask you. So I need to tell them just a little bit about how to do this, because again, we've got everybody muted. But if you'll open up that participants window, you'll see your name, and at the bottom of that window, you'll also see in blue, it says raise hand. And if you click on that, I will know that you have a question to ask. And if you're on your telephone, by the way, and you have a question to ask, you can just press *9, and that will also raise your hand. So I'll know that you. I'll know that you want to.
If you're on a telephone and you raise your hand, don't raise the one that you're holding the phone with.
Yeah, that wouldn't work very well at all. It'd be hard to hear you. But if anybody's got something you want to check in with Dan about, or or just run something by, now would be a good time to do that. I know I extend this invitation week after week, and they're a little slow at it. I think they're shy, but I know a good hypnotist who could help them with that. I'm going to even give you one other chance, an easier way to open your microphone. If you will go down to the bottom of your screen, you'll actually see a little microphone, I think probably in the bottom left. And because you're muted, it has a red line through it. And if you click on it, you'll be unmuted. And then you could just speak.
Or forever hold your peace. I'm practicing the words for these.
An important part of the script for you to memorize, Dan.
Well, I don't think it's going that way.
By the way, I really appreciate what while we're waiting, just what you're talking about in terms of reading novels, and I think probably the first it makes sense to me to consider the earliest experiences that any of us had with hypnosis maybe began with the words "once upon a time." And this notion that stories are vehicles of to take us into other places and other experiences.
Well, yeah, and real quick thing, when you have a favorite time that you were doing self-hypnosis or meditation, and you got exactly what you were, that was so cool.
Yeah.
How quickly can you go there now?
I've just come back.
Well, we're in Florida. It's easier here. The weather's good. You didn't have to get dressed.
I teach hypnosis in Colorado from time to time, and we're up at about 14,000 feet. And we're
starting to breathe, yes.
And so what I like to explain to the students is that if they can master hypnosis there, it will be much easier when they get back to Florida or somewhere else like that, because down is so much farther from Winter Park, Colorado.
Yes, I can see how that would be a thing. I'm thinking the oxygen deprivation would be an issue too, though.
That might be.
Well, it would seem that we are so clear that we can bypass questions.
I would guess so.
The program is like my sessions with clients. It develops according to the students that are there. I have a framework, I have a handout, yada yada. But what you come in with and what you want to learn in the context of that one day is the area that we work with. We will do demonstrations, we will do whatever comes up. You've seen me, you know this.
Yeah. Yeah, so Say What? Communication is more than the words we use. It's a one-day program that Dan will be offering at the Hypno Expo on Friday, May 19th. It's the whole day on Friday. And so we are certainly looking forward to that. And Dan, I just need to make a couple quick announcements here, and then we'll say goodbye properly. Just to remind everybody, this recording will be available tomorrow on the IACT IMDHA forum. It'll also be available on the website in those two places that I mentioned. Just drop down the media tab or the conference tab, and you'll find it there. You can go to hypnoexpo2017.com. By the way, when you log into the website for IACT or IMDHA, if you're a member, you log in with your member ID, you have the opportunity then to claim CEUs for listening to us tonight. You know, you listen to us for an hour, so you get an hour for an hour. So go out to the website and claim your CEUs. It's a good way to get some of those hours together. And then be sure and get yourself out to register and to learn all about the Hypno Expo and the conferences that you haven't heard about yet on here at Hypno Expo 2017. That's all one word, hypnoexpo2017.com, so that you've got what you need to know in order to register and to come join us on the beach. And now, Dan,
bring your family, because they can play on the beach while you're doing class.
Well, that's exactly right. And, well, not only that, plan on staying a couple extra days because it's Florida and it's May, for goodness sake, and you're at Daytona Beach.
And there's a place down the boardwalk with saltwater taffy they make in the window.
Excellent. Yeah. Yeah. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Dan. Well, this is something that I do every day. First of all, I want to just thank you for being here and for talking with us tonight. It's always a pleasure, my friend. And I'm going to do something really wild and reckless and crazy now, and that is I'm just going to unmute everybody. So all of the microphones in the world will be open so everybody can sort of say goodbye or wave or shout out. It will be a great cacophony of love and affection for you, Dan, for the Hypno Expo 2017.
Or now it's time to say goodbye.
Our company. Here we are in Florida. So the microphones are open. Good night, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Come back next week. It'll be Will Horton.
Bye.
Anyway.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Good night.
I will speak with you later, Michael.
Okay. Bye-bye.